Hello, hello. Welcome to the Frayed Brush. Wife, can you do me a favor and see if the notification for the stream going live went into Discord? So on the last stream, we kind of did some work on Superman's head, and after looking at it, realized it was a little. Okay, thank you. Realized it was a little darker than what I was going for. So ended up taking the other printed one and working on it, and working in a little bit lighter colors as to not make it so dark. Like the way this one's heading more, but we'll be doing more work on that later. Um, Today, what we're going to be working on is the body, and it's huge. Let me back my camera out. Yeah, that's about as far out as we're going to be able to get. And you can tell this thing is massive. These are 1-inch squares on the mat here. So about 7 inches. Add the head, another 8 inches, or total of 8 inches. With this one, what I did, I used this is another 3D print. You can see at the bottom of the screen there. It's from Malik's 3D Design. I primed it with some of my rattle can primers, and then went over it with some of the 3D prime from Badger, just the black. Then hit it with some Stynylrez gray from a 45-degree angle, and then went back to the traditional Liquitex titanium white ink for the overhead to give it the nice Xenothon prime. You can tell it's got a lot of detail in there. So not quite sure how far we're going to make it on it today, but we're going to go ahead and get started. The picture in the lower left corner, you can kind of see the color scheme we're going for. This is a fan art, so as you can tell, the costume doesn't match exactly. For example, this one has like a utility belt type on the model, and the picture in the lower left corner does not have one. So there are certain differences. That way it avoids IP, copyright, all that kind of good stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off with base coating it in Ritterlich Blue. Okay, this is from Reaper. Last stream I'd said I usually do a ratio of about 8 drops of paint to 2 drops of water. Ended up taking a little bit more than I wanted to cover, so this time we're going to go for 9 drops of paint and 1 drop of water. There's the paint. There's the water. Let's get this mixed up. And then it wasn't until the day after the last stream I realized the autofocus was turned off on the camera. So hopefully things look a little bit better this time. And this is normally this Superman would have his own base that he goes on, but he's being used as part of a 6-figure diorama, like I explained in the last video. It's doing the whole Justice League. So instead of his normal base, he is involved with a much larger base that holds all 6 of the characters. So instead of being able to just kind of put him on his base and work with him, I kind of had to rig him up here. This little wooden piece I glued down to the top of the medicine bottle, and then it matched the angle of his foot. So I hot glued that down. So this is how I'm able to hold him and paint him. We'll see how it goes. So we'll go ahead and get these base coats started real quick. And the whole thing is going to be blue starting out. Matter of fact, you know what? we're not even going to waste time. This is actually a Raphael 8404 size 3. It's pretty big brush as far as miniature painting goes. But we're going to need something a little bit bigger, something that covers a little bit faster. So here is the large Artis Opus dry brush. And this will cover things much, much quicker. Because we're trying to get those base coats laid down. Because if you see you're making progress, you want to work harder to get it finished. So probably goes through a little bit more paint this way, but it's worth it if it covers the gray up quicker. Now, Xenopho highlights are usually used if you excuse me, if you do a lot of like thin glazing to get your colors down. And what the Xenopho highlight does is it kind of places your shadows and highlights for you, which makes the highlights and shadows pretty much be already done by using the thin glaze over them, because the Xenopho Prime shows through, which kind of makes less work, but I'm not that good at getting thin glazes yet, but we're working on it. Excuse me. And as you can see, this paint's going down much quicker with this big dry brush than it was the size 3. And I actually have 2 of these. What we might do before we get to the oils on this one is try to get in a little bit of dry brushing to pull out those highlights a little bit, because this is going to be our base color. Maybe. We'll see. It's potentially being our base color, which means there's going to be some highlights, maybe some darker stuff going over it. Of course, it's kind of hard to get light over dark, so kind of wanted to be a little bit more careful around the emblem, because that's going to be kind of a brighter red, and don't really want to hit the hands because we've got the flesh color to go over those. So even though it's big brush, it's fun to use, you still want to be kind of mindful of where your paint's going, and that's just to help you out later on in the process when you go to do your other lighter colors. Now, stuff right here, that little bit of paint, right, the blue paint right there on the hand, not too worried about that because that is in shadow, so it's going to be kind of dark anyway, so that might end up helping us out a little bit. A couple of these areas that are a little hard to get into, we'll go ahead and use the Raphael to get those. But use bigger brushes for your base coats. Definitely makes some quick work of things. So on this, with what we've done so far, if we were actually still doing that with that Raphael brush, probably actually wouldn't even be done with the leg yet. So I'll go ahead and try to get some little inside things here where that dry brush was too big to get. Didn't get down to some of those finer areas very well, but it definitely helped out. But I will tell you, using a dry brush like that, you will go through some paint pretty quick. So be mindful of that. But it's pretty great at putting down some smooth layers really fast. Go ahead and get a little bit more out here. That will add a little bit of water. By using that dry brush towards the beginning, the measurements kind of go out the window, but not too terribly bad. But the measurements, in my opinion, the paint water measurements really come into play when you start getting into like your highlighting and stuff like that. It is kind of hard to manipulate the model with it mounted the way it is, but this is kind of the only way to do it, because I didn't really want to break it up into sub-assemblies to get it done. And not too versed in dry brushing like what we're going to try to do with these highlights here in a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. Either way, it's all practice. Biggest thing is just making sure there's color on everything, especially this dark blue. It's really nice if there's actually a part you forget. There's a chance that the blue color will have already kind of hit it and might make it look like it's more of in shadow than forgotten about. So that's always a good thing. Armpit just doesn't want to get covered. I think this might be pretty good for the most part. We'll let that dry a little bit. One thing too is for your paint water, okay? Brushes cost money, and sometimes a lot of them aren't cheap, especially good Kolinsky Sable brushes. They can be pretty pricey, so you want to do what you can to kind of help take care of them. So what I do when I mix my, or not when I mix, but when I get my water in my brush rinse cup, I put in a touch of this shampoo for babies. It's really gentle. Usually doesn't have any dyes, no fragrances, stuff like that. And with the Kolinsky Sable being real hair, it's kind of like when you rinse your brush, you're kind of washing its hair in a way, and kind of helping you on the back end as far as keeping it clean goes. So what we'll do now, we'll go ahead and get his hands covered up. Yeah, no, not cheap at all. So starting out with that brush, I really like the way that 9-to-1 paint to water turned out. I think we might stick with that. That might be the new ratio for base coating. It gets significantly different as you get into layers, glazing, things of that nature. So I'm trying to do this as easily as possible. Now this is the same skin tone that was used on the redo of the head. And what I might do once I start getting these once these base coats are down, probably end up throwing on a glove and removing him from the plinth. That way I can hold him in different ways and get to certain areas and kind of be able to manipulate the brush the way I want, rather than not having a lot of support. But base coats can be messy, so that's all right. Because especially with these hands, we'll want easy access to them, so we can get our oils laid down, make them look nice. And the dark color underneath helps with the shading, because even now it kind of looks like it's hard to tell on the camera, I guess, but even now it looks like his hands kind of shaded more on his fingers because they're facing down. So every little bit helps. If you can find a shortcut, then by all means take it. Anything that helps you paint better faster, I am an advocate for. Do a little bit of touch up there. You got a little bit of skin tone on the costume, but it's okay. By the time we get the first coat on those hands, the first blue should be dry, so then we can go back and see where we need to adjust to give it a little bit more uniform color. And then one thing I might do, just to kind of explain the Xenothon Prime a little bit better, is on something in the future, I'll do the Xenothon Prime on it. Then we'll try to use some, thin layers over it, and you'll actually really be able to see how well the Xenothon Prime works in your favor and helps you out. It really does cut down on a lot of work, but at the same time, it's like on a figure this large, it's not with them casting their own highlights and shadows, it's not as detrimental. I'm sure there are people out there that would disagree with me, but to each his own. It's one of the cool things about painting figures and comic book heroes and things of that nature, is you kind of got your own direction you can go, and you don't have to do it the same way everybody else does. So enjoy yourself. Oops. Yeah, he's going to stay on here for these base coats, and then he's coming off there. It's just too hard to manipulate. Alright, so we'll let that dry, and we'll get back at some of this blue. Probably break out the big brush again because it just makes it go so much faster. Not too much that really needs to be covered up again, I don't think. If it's light in a highlight area, kind of leave it there because that's less work we're going to have to do. The paint's already a little bit lighter and it looks close to what the highlight would be, then it doesn't make much sense to cover it up if some of the work's done for you. And not really too worried about the bottoms, because he's kind of set inside the diorama. Once I get so far with the figures, maybe I can kind of mock it up and show. I know it might be a little hard to understand right now, but it'll all come together, I promise. They really might cover that up. That's the shoulder that goes to the cave, but it is what it is. Let's cover it up now. Okay, we'll leave that there for now. Let's see. What do we want for our red? It's kind of a darker red almost from looking at that picture. Let's see. We'll use some Reaper. And we'll try their clear red. If we put something too light, it's always easier to darken it rather than putting something too dark and then having to lighten it. I just noticed the S on his chest is a little bit different than the picture. So we'll figure out how we're going to do that. So it's like it has two levels here. You have the level with the S, and then you have another shield behind it. The original, well, I don't know if it's the original, but the picture at the lower left corner only shows what looks like to be one level of red. So I guess the whole thing's supposed to be red anyway with the yellow inset. So you know what? We'll do the yellow first. And I'll give you a little secret with yellow. Yellow is one of the hardest colors in the world to get to cover, both miniature painting, and I think my wife hates using yellow on her nails as well. So even nail polish is about the same. Get this red mixed up since we already got the water in it. But all your light colors, if you add some white to them, it makes them cover pretty flawless. So here is Dragon White 09439 from Reaper. It's really kind of old, but we're only going to use a drop or two of it. We got the clear yellow, so we'll put 8 drops of the clear yellow. Not sure what this white's going to look like. Ugh, grody. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, and I got this little pokey tool too. So you use to unclog the nozzles of the paint bottles. You can get those from Reaper as well. So we'll do 1 drop of the white, and then we'll do a drop of water, and maybe that'll cover it pretty well. See what happens. Ooh, goodness. White kind of took over. Holy cow. Well, wasn't looking for that yellow. Not painting him for Easter. So. What we can do is if this doesn't lighten up very much, which doesn't really look like it's going to, since this should cover pretty well, and it is yellow, we can get this down and then go back over it with a much brighter yellow, because then yellow should have no problem covering over top of yellow. So we'll see what we got here. And you always want to paint your lowest level first, because it's inevitable you're going to get paint on things. So kind of like the way you get dressed for winter. You know, you'll have your t-shirt, then you might have a sweatshirt, then you might have a jacket. Well, it's kind of like the same way with this. Start at the lower layer and build up, because you're not going to be able to put on your jacket, then put on your sweatshirt, and then put on your t-shirt. So we'll get this yellow in here. It's not covering too bad, actually. Not as vibrant as I want it yet, but it'll be a good base layer for the next yellow to go over top of, to really punch it up. And I think the worst trouble we're going to have with this S is covering the kind of like inside wall of the raised letter. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And these are fairly thin layers, so they're going to dry real fast. And if I see one starts skinning and pulling back up, then it's just a matter of stopping it, letting it dry a little bit more, and getting at it again. And I think this S might need to go a little bit more of a golden yellow rather than just a bright yellow. I'll have to look and see what I've got for kind of like golden yellows that aren't gold. Go ahead and throw down some of the red. Give that yellow a chance to dry. Start kind of doing this outer edge a little bit. And you know, if we touch the blue with it, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. We're not on final layers or anything like that. So we'll be all right. It'll be okay. Oop. Goodness, no place to put my finger. Red's a little bit more waterier than I like. It might cover a couple layers. Got some interesting stuff coming up because of this diorama. A lot of things we're going to be able to cover, especially painting black because of both Green Lantern and the Batman. They both have a significant amount of black in their uniforms. Let that dry. That's not gonna be too bad. We might want to, because that's such a muted blue. Usually, if you go with one muted color, all the colors have to be muted. So I might have to see about knocking that red down a little bit and that yellow down once we get going. But we're gonna see what would be another lighter blue. Let's start going to try dry brushing some of those highlights. This might be good. This is heather blue. Not sure if it's going to be too bright. Might be a little bit too gray. It might be okay. Grab a little bit smaller dry brush here. Change out some napkins because we're doing dry brushing now instead of trying to like base coat, and dry brushing is not my strong suit. So we'll see what we get here. I can't really tell it's doing anything. We get our dry brush too dry. It's coming along a little bit, I guess. It's probably better to go a little bit slower than it doesn't get out of control. I'll try. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Tell that a little bit more. Oh yeah. There we go. Yeah. I'll try to make sure we get all the folds in the costume and everything. Yeah, it's a little too stark, but I'll see what we can do to fix it. Sure, we might be able to knock those edges off a little bit because it's pretty bright. And a lot of this might be able to be handled once we get in there with the oils too. So, be good to go. Okay. And just like the head, you know, we covered in base coats, and pretty much then went back over it in oils. But with this being such a large figure, we have to do just a little bit more work until we get to the point of using oils. But I get a feeling none of this is going to have an issue blending together once we get to the oils part. Let's actually bring up the blue a little bit more, so maybe it'll kind of go in line with that with the bright red a little bit easier. Welcome back. Alright, so bring this color up some, so it's good. Not quite as dark anymore. Let's see what we can do about the boots. We can hit those up. Just a little bit. Kind of bring them in line because they are the same color. So we can go ahead and get some of the edge highlighting built into them. Oops. Yeah, I probably need to take it easy on that a little bit. It's starting to kind of gunk up, but getting some color brought out there, so it's all good. Set up these hands again. Put a coat on those. awkward angle. Not angle, just awkward way to hold it. Not sure if we should go for a black on that belt or what. Looks like maybe I had a bad support on his hand there. A little bit of a line right there. Looks like it kind of maybe went to fail, but didn't quite, so that's good. Okay, now let's try to hit up this red a little bit more. Well, actually, we'll get into that yellow a little bit. Yeah, I think we're just going to use this yellow as the base coat. Not base coat. I guess be more of a primer layer. Just try to get some better color to lay down. That's a little too stark. Hold on. I think this might be what we're looking for. Here we've got the NMM Gold. Nope, sorry. Oh, no, can't use that. That's a metallic. Oh, goodness. All right, here we go. We'll try this. We'll just go real muted with all the colors because of that blue. So here, this is Palomino Gold. That is stopped up. Hasn't been used in a while. So I think that's going to be Mo Beta. Audio looks better on camera. All right. So let's try these out. Probably one of those I should have added white to it, but I don't want to knock it out so much like the other one. Yeah, I think this is the color we were looking for. Seems to be. I don't know, we'll find out though. But well, you can't really tell that big of a difference, I don't think. It's not too bad. Yeah, I think that'll be good. Yeah. You know what? We might actually try some tricks on this whole thing. See how it works out. We might break out the washes. I think about the only thing we'd have to redo is the hands if it gets too out of control, but it might work out real well. Got our base coats down. Go ahead and hit the washes. Go back in with our base coat a little bit. Brighten it up, and then it might actually blend in those highlights a little bit better, and we might be able to leave it alone. So we'll see what happens. All right, so we got that. Now, what are we going to use for a more muted red? There we go. Chum red. Now, one thing that's kind of crazy about this is you've got the S and the diamond that are going to be red except for the yellow. Then these pieces right here, along here, actually are part of the cape. So whatever color this ends up being is pretty much what all the red's going to be. So I think it'll be kind of good. We're going with the more muted. I don't even think this one's ever been used. Wipe that off. Try not to put paint all over the place. Oh yeah, I think that's going to be better. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot better. I like the way that looks. I think this red and yellow we found are going to fall right in line with the blue. Let's see what we get here. I'll take a couple coats to get it to the darkness we want, but I think this was a good choice. Yeah, I think that's going to be good. Just want to get some stuff blocked in here. I don't want to try to get into too fine a detail with the angle I'm having to hold it at, because it's not very It's not very comfortable to paint, and it's actually not very comfortable to hold. So and to paint this S, because it's raised, I'm just using the side of my brush. That way I don't go too crazy with going off of getting a bunch of red inside that yellow. It'll be a much more tedious process when we go to paint the inside edge of the of the red. I got a little bit too much paint on my brush, but dedicated. Yeah, I think that red and yellow is a lot better. Go ahead and get the pieces of the cape colored in, and it looks like it might go on around the back as well. So. Probably have my glasses on for this, but you know, we're shooting it from the hip. I think once we get some shading in there, I think it'll look pretty good. Especially once we get this S knocked down to the proper mutedness, which really nothing but putting on some more coats until the actual color of the red is all that's showing, rather than the yellow showing through. Now, of course, no matter what, any yellow underneath there will affect the look of the base coat, but it'll be alright. Alright, not too bad. I don't know. I don't know if there's a way I can show kind of mock up the head on it. Let me grab a brush, or a glove, I'm sorry. And see, I took my glove off because it was kind of affecting the automatic white balance on the camera. We'll see if we can make it work long enough just to kind of mock this up. Goodness. Okay, so there's the head. And there's the body. So I think we're definitely on the right track here. That's not going to look bad at all. We'll get in there with the oils next time and start getting some stuff done. Might be a little bit more done on the head and the body when we come back. Might have the cape base coated. So we can take a look at that and check it out. But this is where we're at right now. Hope you enjoyed the video. You can look on my Twitch channel, see the link to my YouTube channel. Go check that out. I upload all my live streams to YouTube. There's also some other painting videos on there that don't get put on Twitch because they're not live stream. Other than that, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. You know, we go through, we think we're going to give it a try, what we think might work, and if it doesn't, then we'll try it again a different way till we get it right. So that's all for now. Thanks again for coming. I'm Big Aaron. This is the Frayed Brush. And remember, till next time, tell them Big Aaron sent you.